Welcome back to Lost Legacies.
A Hidden City Book Company production.
I'm Matt.
And I'm Sam.
So before we get into it, did you get to watch the Murderbot trailer?
I did.
How do you feel?
Uh Cautiously optimistic.
Mm-hmm.
Um and I'm I recently as recently as last October when we were doing Salem's Lot,
Mm-hmm.
I discovered something about myself, and that is I am slowly becoming a book snob.
Mm-hmm.
I'm becoming one of those people where, it's like, why can't they just do the book? The book is right there. Like, why do they have
Yeah.
to change so much of it?
Mm-hmm.
Like, just do the book and it'll work.
Mm-hmm.
Um yeah, so I'm trying not to feel that way about the Murderbot trailer, and also because it's a trailer, like, they're trying to get as many demographics as they can, and all that, so it's like, yeah, okay. um but it looks fun,
Mm-hmm.
you know it looks fun. And I really like that they actually filmed and, like, casted and filmed uh uh the like mini series that Murderbot is obsessed with. I love,
Mm-hmm.
I love that they have cast, cool actors, to be in there, and it
Mm-hmm.
looks like it's gonna be pretty prominent in the series. Because in the books, like, I don't think Murderbot ever, I don't think we ever see, like actual, like, scenes. They're
Mm-hmm.
not, like, described to us. It's more just like a scenario, or like, oh, this reminds me of this episode of Sanctuary Moon 427 or whatever. Um yeah, so yeah, like, the fact that, like, that they've filmed a show, they have a cool cast with it, and it looks like it's going to be a pretty play a big part in the series. That has me excited. So I'm down for that.
I've never read Murderbot.
Okay.
So I was kind of caught off guard by how, like, humorous the trailer kind of looked.
Mm.
Um And I don't know if that's actually like part of the series. I know there are some humorous elements and stuff, but
Mhm.
I don't know. I was kind of watching it and I was just like, oh.
That, yeah, because here's the thing: we don't get another narrator besides Murderbot,
Yeah.
so all of it comes from them, and they are a snarky security android, you
Hmm.
know. So, like, they are narrating the scenario, and they have a pretty, low opinion about humans. So, they're
Okay.
just like, yeah, humans are stupid, like
Yeah.
like humans have too many emotions, like, they're doing this stuff, like, if they didn't do that, they wouldn't die all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just like I said, I never read the books. I'm also cautiously optimistic about this show. But like as soon as you see like I like everything in the trailer, what it was showing. Um But then, like, as soon as you see the whatever, the council table and stuff, and I'm just like, I don't know. I was getting Mandalorian vibes. I'm like, okay, all right.
Mm.
Where like they really started going more humorous, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm like, okay, I don't know. So we'll see. And it's like I feel like we're getting more and more of that, and I think it's we're in the Guardians of the Galaxy era. You know,
Yeah.
like even though that trilogy is gone and done, like everyone sees what James Gunn did and like, oh, we got to add humor. And it's like, well, he didn't just add humor. That wasn't the success of Guardians of the Galaxy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was part of it. But so now everyone's like, yeah, we just gotta, add all this humor stuff. And like I like when sci-fi does that. It's always been a part of it. Fifth Element is like a big example. Although, hot take, as an adult, now that I'm older, I don't really like Fifth Element.
It's uh it's weird.
I watched it again last year and I'm like, this like is just all over the place. Like,
Yeah, it's very tonally confused.
yeah.
like it looks and sounds fantastic,
Hmm.
but yeah, just yeah, like pacing wise, and then
Yeah.
yeah, just yeah, it's
Yeah.
weird.
And the only reason I bring this up is because we are talking about a science fiction movie today,
Yes.
which is not humorous at all.
No.
But also at the same time, I'm in the middle of season 2 of The Expanse right now.
Mm,
And dude, this is like the best sci-fi story ever.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
just absolutely love it. Um, and I just wish we can get more sci-fi like that. Now, I what does that mean? I don't know. Like you're like, oh, what serious sci-fi or dark and gritty sci-fi? And it's like, well,
Mhm.
yes and no.
That's the
Like
thing. Like The
it's still
Expanse also
lighthearted.
isn't. Yeah.
There's still lighthearted moments, but like, and there's a lot of character, and like, it's not dark and gritty for dark and gritty's sake. It's just a more
Yeah.
kind of realistic, we'll say grounded. It's a more grounded look at science fiction,
Very much.
um, a future not far from our current day.
Yeah.
Like we're never gonna see that future, but I don't know. It doesn't seem that far off.
Yeah.
Um, but they take everything seriously, and they I think the big thing is that they trust the audience to
Hmm.
be smart. It's kind of like I feel like everyone's trying to cater to audiences these days, and it's like, look, if your audience is watching season 2, they're in, man. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
especially a show like The Expanse where you're not really supposed to know what's going on because it's a mystery. And it's like, and
Hmm.
if your audience is still here halfway through season 2, like you got them.
Yeah.
Like just go with it. So I don't know, something like that, and then something like this where there weren't the movie we're talking about today. There weren't a lot of sci-fi elements in it. It was more like the setting, but like there was a continuity and there was kind of a world building, and it felt lived in.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I'm looking for. And who knows? I mean, maybe Murderbot can do that. Um, it's just I don't have a lot of faith in Hollywood right now, especially when it comes to genre stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't know. However, to contradict myself, we also
Hmm.
just saw the trailer for Predator: Killer of Killers. Is that
Oh
what it's
yeah.
called?
Yeah. Hmm.
The new animated series coming out?
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. Animated series. It's Predator. Each one looks like it's taking it place in a different time period. I'm like,
Hmm.
there were samurais, there were World War II like dog fighters. I'm like, what the hell? Like
Hmm.
that looked awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, trust your audience. Just once you got them strapped in, you can't get off the roller coaster, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
without fear of loss of limb and or death. So yeah, I just want to talk about that real quick before we jump into the movie today.
Hmm.
Did you have anything else you want to talk about before we jump in?
I felt like I had several points that I wanted to expound upon while you were talking, but I
Oh,
forgot.
yeah, happens to me all the time.
Yeah.
Um, so first off,
Hmm.
listeners, like a week ago, I was asking Sam, like, hey, what movie are we gonna watch for the podcast? We were hot off the streets of fire,
Yeah.
and over the past couple weeks, Sam brought up two different movies to bring to the pod, both of which were something we have both seen plenty of times. We've talked about so much in our own free time. I was just like, I don't know, like I felt like we would have to fake a conversation
Mm.
because we're not just going to talk about the same thing we've always been talking about, like for the past
Yeah.
20 years, because those movies are like 20 years old. So I'm
Oh
like,
God.
huh. So I
Oh
don't know.
God.
So last when we were recording the last episode, I really didn't know what we were watching next.
Hmm.
And Sam just casually mentions Prospect. I was like, okay, Sam's talked about this movie before. I know he likes it, and he has thought about it before. He's thought about bringing it to the pod, and he just
Hmm.
never did. And I'm like, all right, whatever, give it a shot, because that's kind of the attitude Sam had. He's like,
Is it?
not when you finally decided before
Oh,
the
okay.
past how many ever years since you've watched it. You're like, yeah, I think I should bring it to the pod, or I think I'm going to talk about Chronicles of Riddick instead. And I'm
Got
like, okay. So I'm sitting down watching this movie, and I'm like, damn it, Sam. Why didn't you pick this movie earlier?
it.
All right, everyone. We're talking about I don't even know what year this was. 2021, I think.
This was 2018.
Oh, geez, that's right. 2018. Do you have the info? Because I don't remember the directors. I don't have any of the
I
info.
do. I do. The movie is Prospect. This was in made in 2018, and the directors were a duo. They were Christopher Caldwell and Zeke Earl. And it was both written by Christopher Caldwell and Zeke Earl.
And they haven't done anything since.
They haven't done anything since.
I don't get it.
So quick history. Prospect was originally a short film.
Hmm.
These two met in college, and they were huge fans of science fiction, but they always talked about the things that they didn't like in some of their movies, or some of their favorite movies.
Hmm.
And so they kind of decided, like, well, like, why don't we try and like do something, like, why don't we try and make our own movie? So they put it out on Kickstarter. They wanted to make this sci-fi short. And yeah, it got a bunch of acclaim, it got funded, all this stuff. And yeah, so it's about 14 minutes. That is essentially kind of act one of the movie, you know?
You saw it? You got to watch it?
Yes, yes, I did. I watched it. And I had never seen it before, so I was like, "Oh, this will be an interesting pairing." So yeah, it is it's about this young girl and her father. They're on this alien world, uh and they're there to mine, this precious mineral that's going to make them very rich and pull them, out of poverty. And then tragedy ensues, somebody gets shot, it's all this stuff. It's supposed to be very, not necessarily like bleak for bleak's sake, like we were saying, but their idea was that this is the new West. This is the new frontier. So, there are going to be these challenges, and there are going to be these struggles that feel very real, so they didn't want to have, these like laser pistols, and they can just breathe on the planet. They didn't want any of that. So yeah, and then they eventually secured a kind of, major producer. They got $4 million, and they made their feature film.
And I was reading that they got a crew that had never worked on a movie before.
Yeah.
So they're getting like plumbers and electricians and just
Yeah.
average day normal people, no film experience to make this. I was
Hmm.
like, man, that's awesome. That's rad.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So that they
Uh
had like their own like little art commune, essentially, just making
yeah.
their, building their sci-fi ships and their spacesuits.
Yeah, I don't know. I think okay, let's just talk about the movie. I think
Mhm.
probably my favorite thing about it was the music.
Yeah.
It's so it wasn't even like a western like because you're always saying it was like a space western or kind of influenced by it. I was expecting the score to be a little more western-ish, and I'm
Yeah.
like, no, it's not that at all. It's
Hmm.
very like almost like a spiritual kind of thing, like a oh, maybe not spiritual, but like a holy kind of cathedral type music. And I'm like, this is really interesting.
It feels like it feels kind of like a Dan Romer score,
Yeah, in a way. Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
Yeah, he's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Um, he scored one of my favorite movies of all time, Beast of the Southern Wild.
Yeah.
And I think that was kind of like his big
That kind of
break. That
like,
was like the first
yeah.
one.
Yeah, that kind
You
of
know, he
propelled
did
him
that.
up there.
I remember it wasn't eligible for an Oscar nomination
Hmm.
because the same thing with Hans Zimmer. Like there was well actually Hans Zimmer for Dune 2, it's like you needed to get like 75% of the score had to be unique to your movie.
Hmm.
And it wasn't because it's essentially the same score from Dune 1. So
Hmm.
Dan Romer's case though, I think that's one of the rules, but also you can't have a certain percentage appear in another movie.
Oh.
And he had a portion of it in one of the short films they made before
Oh.
Beast.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, if I remember correctly, this was decades ago, but
Mhm.
that's what made him ineligible for Oscar nomination. And it's him and someone else. I don't remember. It was a
Wow.
duo.
Yeah.
But yeah, God, what a score. Talk about a movie that'll always make me cry. Um, but also similar to that, this is a very bare bones indie film. I loved
Mhm.
it. The pacing was kind of weird, but I dug everything in this. It's not like a fun film that I would just go back and watch in my free time.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's definitely it's like this fight against time, fight against survival. And I mean, look, I watched The Gray for fun, so that kind of says something. But
You weirdo.
this one is just kind of more bleak, but not for bleak's sake. I mean, you really feel the character's journey. C, her name is C.
Hmm.
Um, and it's like just like Beast of the Southern Wild. It's a coming of age story, you
Yeah.
know. Give me something here, Sam, because I don't know. It's tough when it's a movie you really like, because I'm like, I don't know, I liked it. I don't know what else to say, you know?
Right? It's like, well, there you go, guys. That's the episode.
Yeah, Pedro
We
Pascal
ended.
was great.
Yeah, yeah. Pedro Pascal is
Um,
great. I think I think maybe like step back a minute and talk about the difference between this and the short film.
mm-hmm,
Because there's a pretty big difference uh, between the two, and it's that the father and the daughter have a much more like kind of caring relationship in the short.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
They like you can still tell that she still is unsure what's going on. He's still very focused on making sure we get to the point, making sure all of our equipment works, leaving on time, all that. But they have a moment where uh they have a moment where where the daughter, they're not named in the short, by the way, but he's looking at his daughter and she's looking through a journal that has a lot of sketches in it,
mm-hmm,
and he's like very surprised and he's like, what is that? She's like, oh, I sketch, in my free time, some of the plant life we see. And he takes it and he looks at it and he's like moved by it and he's like, this is good, like this is really good, like when we get to the core worlds or whatever, we'll get you paints. You should paint. I think that'd be fun. And then in like the next scene is the scene where like they get robbed and he gets shot.
mm-hmm,
Um, but like it kind of was a very stark difference where it's like, wow, there is like this like love here between these two, whereas in the feature film, that's almost absent. Like the dad is
yeah,
very like so focused and so single-mindedly doing this that like there is almost no, at least from what we can see. Obviously we're seeing a lot of it from C's perspective,
mm-hmm,
but we don't really feel that same amount of love
yeah.
you know
I wonder if that's because okay, so the short film, how does the short film end?
so the short film also different. C so her dad doesn't die. uh she like tapes up his face, throws him into like their little tent because they didn't have money for a ship, so they have a little tent. Uh,
Space Tent, perfect.
space tent,
Yeah,
and she takes a handgun and goes after the guy that shot her father and basically ambushes him. Shoots him down. He's there like struggling. She rips off his helmet, watches him like suffocating, and
yeah,
then kills him.
nice.
And then she again like moves her dad and they're she's dragging him off like towards the direction of their spaceship,
Yeah,
and that's kind of where it ends.
I several things. First, I'll say is I'm glad she's capable in this movie
Hmm.
because you could have gone like the Prey route where you see the young girl. Uh, well, I mean, I guess Prey she was already pretty skilled at the beginning of the movie,
Hmm.
but like I thought this was going to be like the type of movie where like okay, she's learning how to survive on her own and she's going to have to kill everyone, which
Hmm.
there's nothing wrong with that, but I really like the fact that they didn't do that.
Me too.
Also this is 2018. I feel like we've gotten a lot of movies like that since then.
Yeah.
So this really felt original, and it really builds on that relationship with what's his name? Ezra.
Yes, Ezra.
So Pedro Pascal's character, because she isn't that badass, and she's not going to become that badass by the end of the movie. Like she
Hmm.
needs him, and then by, towards the third act, he needs her.
Hmm.
So, and I really like that. Uh, Also the thing I'm because I thought about that, like when the dad dies, I'm like, this sucks. It was a good moment, it was a dramatic moment, but I was wondering, like, would this have hit harder if there was like that loving relationship? And I'm like, absolutely. But I can't see a world where she teams up with Ezra
I
if that
agree.
happens.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm fine with it playing out the way it did. She doesn't even really mourn, her dad.
Not really, no.
And I was like, oh, okay, interesting. It just kind of caught me off guard. I'm like, that's just not the story they're telling. I'm like, all right, right, let's see.
Yeah.
Like I said, I can't get off this roller coaster. So, um, yeah, so I thought that was really cool. And I like how is very organically the relationship with Ezra kind of built. So the fact, spoiler alert, if you haven't watched the movie, go watch the movie. I don't know what you're doing here. So the fact that she goes back for him at the end, I was like, hell yeah. Hell
Yeah.
yeah. I was like, it felt earned at that point, you know? Um, Even though like this isn't I don't know. I'm trying to think of good, like the good chemistry, like buddy duo movies, like they're not Riggs and Murtaugh, but they're definitely it's definitely not it's definitely a step above Tenet, you know? We're like,
Yeah.
oh, the last scene between what's the main guy, the actor's name?
John David Washington.
Yeah, John David Washington and Robert Pattinson apparently are super best friends by the end of the movie, and I
Hmm.
didn't know it until the last scene. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, okay. All right. I was like, no,
Yeah.
this is I like the way this movie does that. It's like they're forced to work together. It's kind of like that bonded by trauma or by circumstance,
Yeah.
and the fact that she doesn't leave him to die, she goes back for him. And I'm like, and I know it's not the story, but I can't help but wonder, like, well, what happens next?
Yeah.
Like
Well,
there
I have ideas.
yeah, I'm like, there's a part of me like that is rooting for these two to stick together because they're good for each other. It's kind of like a weird Joel and Ellie relationship,
Yeah.
except they start off as antagonists for each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Like it's definitely not enemies to lovers, but it's like enemies to I wouldn't even say there's like a father-daughter relationship there. There really isn't.
There's really not.
They
No.
kind of become like equals at the end. It just becomes like a partnership. So I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, because again, I thought that too was where the story was going to go. Like, okay, she's not going to become the badass. She needs him.
Hmm.
Is he going to step in and be this weird pseudo father to her? Which, although there's kind of some like moments where you could think that, but they never really go into it. It's
Yeah.
just always no. You know what this is, Sam? This is
What?
Miami Vice. Like this is Crockett and Tubbs. They're
No.
best friends. They got each other's back, but they're not going to say it out loud. It's
Wow.
kind of like that. That's what I see happening after this movie. Like these two, they got each other's backs.
Wow. It's not a space western. It's space Miami Vice.
Exactly. There you go.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
crazy. Wow. I
Oh man.
love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
So
Yeah. Apparently no no talk yet of, whether there's going to be a sequel. There probably won't be. And
yeah,
honestly, you don't need one.
I
But
don't even know if this went to theaters. I think it was just straight to video on demand.
uh actually, that's a good point. I think it went to festivals.
Yeah.
Um but yeah, oh yeah, it went to South by Southwest.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah,
yeah,
that makes sense.
yeah.
There's some.
There was a small release for at Regal Theaters.
Hmm. What's the other festival they do in Austin? The big one?
Not South by
Yeah,
Fantastic Fest.
maybe that's what I'm thinking of. Because it is that one like the it's just genre, right? Like they always just do genre films.
I believe so. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
What's the one? Isn't there a horror one that they do?
Well, Austin.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
Huh.
I mean, there could
South
maybe.
by Fantastic Fest. It'll come to me later.
Yeah,
Maybe
it's
it's not
three
even
thirty in
Austin.
the
I don't
morning.
know.
You're
Maybe I'm just making
like,
stuff
oh,
up.
yeah, it could be
Um,
making stuff up on the internet.
I know. Unheard of.
Wow.
Yeah, so I love that we have not mentioned yet Sophie Thatcher.
Yeah.
Sorry, listeners. That was Sophie Thatcher. She's my background. This was like the only HD photo I can get for my background.
Oh wow.
Crazy because 18 years old. I don't know if she had much of a career before this, but like I've been hearing her name like all over the place just this year alone. I'm like, who the
Hmm.
hell is this? I know she's in Companion. She's the companion,
Hmm.
and she's in Yellow Jackets
Yes.
and what was The Heretic, I think.
Yes.
You can tell I did research, but it was late at night. So like I've been hearing her name a lot. I'm like, who the hell is this? And then
Hmm.
I'm watching this movie. I'm like, man, she kind of looks like Emma Watson a little bit. And then the end credits pop up. I'm like, oh, I was like, that's who Sophie Thatcher is. Like, all right. Also, she's pretty like blonde in this movie,
Yeah,
and she
yeah. She's
isn't
got
in
like a
any other
short
movie.
kind
So
of,
like, I
yeah.
had no idea this was her.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I
Excellent
believe this
job.
was her first feature.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think she did that excellent job of portraying that age
Hmm.
of transitioning from a teenager to a young adult, and it's just in this case it was a lot more intense, you know.
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm.
but at the same time, was it like she always just seemed like capable? You know, she's not John McClane, but like you could tell she could take care of herself and she
Yeah.
had her plan, but she still needed help and she was mature enough and wise enough to realize that and admit it, you
Yeah.
know, that she teamed up with her father's killer.
Hmm.
So, and I think she also saw the truth in what Ezra was saying. He's like, now I could make the argument that he killed himself. I'm like,
Yeah.
technically, yeah. But that's another
Yeah.
thing. I'm glad it wasn't like, oh, she missed the shot, you know, so she got her dad killed. No, she killed the
Yeah.
guy. I was like,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
okay. Okay.
Like
So like,
technically her dad missed the shot. So
yeah. So I'm like, yeah, there's so many things like that could have gone the opposite. I think I'm just so I don't really get on into the like the film discourse online and Twitter and all that stuff, but I
okay.
know it's there and I always see it.
Sure.
So like there's so many things about this movie where like I feel like I have to defend it or no, I take it back. There's so many things about this movie where like I feel like I don't have to defend it, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
because she's not the often misused term of Mary Sue. It's like no,
Yeah.
she's
No.
not.
No.
And like there's so many like tropes and cliches that they could have gone down or they could have used and they
Hmm.
don't. They take a
Yeah.
hard left turn. And like so like this movie isn't filled with twists and turns, but it was just the storytelling itself. I'm like, "Oh, okay. Okay. This isn't going where I thought it was and I love it, you know?"
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah. Yeah, man. Visually, it looked great. You know, everything's this kind of weird yellow haze. One, I'm
Hmm.
pretty sure that's to hide some of the CG because you only have 4 million. But
Hmm.
also, it was a vibe, man. Like I
Hmm.
dug it. I loved how beautiful everything looked. But also, you could believe it was dangerous. Like, man, everything looks golden and beautiful, but I don't want to breathe that in. I don't want that in my lungs.
Yeah.
So,
They where was this filmed? Oh yeah, so this all of the
Wyoming?
exterior shots, no, were filmed on a private land trust adjacent to Olympic National Park in Washington.
It had a W. I was close.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think both of these guys come from like come from Washington.
Huh.
'Cause they said that like the place where they shot was very similar to the places where they like grew up. And like as
Mm,
kids, like, you know, would like travel around, do all this stuff, and they would say that like, yeah, like this is like this place feels alien, you know, it feels like an alien planet, you know.
yeah.
So yeah, like they've been thinking about this for years. And yeah, I love how like there actually isn't a lot of VFX in this. You know,
Hmm.
obviously like all the space station stuff, any exterior where you see like the other planet, you
Hmm.
know, that's very close because you know, this is a moon, a forest moon. I love a forest moon. Um but yeah, like most of this is practical. So they said that like they took everybody out into, you know, the forest. And yeah, again, like not everybody on the crew knew how to make a movie or like comes from movies.
Hmm.
So they were all pretty much just like hiding. It was like whenever the shots were going and they would yell cut, and then about like 30 just people would stand up or like creep out from behind a tree.
Hmm.
And it's just like, well, here we are.
Nice.
Yeah.
Uh, man, I love just the style, like the design choices of how, like analog everything felt, the ships,
Yeah.
you know. I was like,
Yeah.
and just dirt, like I was like, the main pod that they go down, you know, there's several moments where you kind of just see just moving around in the cabin and stuff. I'm like,
Hmm.
man, the
Yeah, I
place is so
love,
dirty, and it's like you
yeah.
can feel like it's lived in. Those walls used to be a clean white, you know, and you could tell that they're
Hmm.
not really anymore. I'm like, man, I really like this.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I love how like they have, you know, like just these little well, like her dad Damon like puts this little like it just I don't know what kind of writing it is. Like I thought it was shorthand for a minute, but I don't
oh
think it
yeah.
is. Um but yeah, just like this little like script like
Hmm.
beneath a control panel, and then starts typing stuff in.
Yeah.
Or I love like the lander where he's like has to like look at it from a distance.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, like yeah, it looks like infrared, you know, radar, kind of like what we have, but just a little bit different, a little bit futuristic. And I'm like,
Yeah.
that's so cool. Like all of these things, like there's not a like, you know, there's not like a wall of text that starts the movie where it's like the year is 295, you know,
Hmm.
society's travel to the stars. Like there's none of that. Like there's no, we're stopping to exposit like, well, when the outer colonies rebelled, you know, and did all this from
Yeah.
the stuff. It's like there's none of that. It's
Yeah.
just people, you know, like we have to infer all these things. It's very much like you were saying at the beginning, like letting trusting your audience to just vibe with it to get here.
Yeah.
I feel like if you at least get to the point where they start actually mining the stuff, like that very initial thing where they're mining the Orlac,
Hmm.
and you see like what comes of it. Like I feel like if you get there, I think you're in it. I think you're in for the rest of the movie. Because even that, like it's so meticulous and it's so like, man,
Yeah.
like it's so like you feel like this is life or death. This is make or break, you
Hmm.
know. And so the fact that like they mine this little small one, they're like, where we're going, they'll be about 5 times that big. It's like, okay,
It sets up the
okay,
stakes. It sets up
yeah.
like the the dad made so many mistakes.
Hmm.
You know, I'm like, oh, you should, yeah. Oh my God.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, yeah. There, I mean, there's definitely parts of the film where I thought was slow, especially like that first chunk. But like I was digging it because I'm like, you know, I'm really interested in this relationship of the of her and the dad. And it, oh, he's dead. I was like, oh crap. I'm like,
Hmm.
okay, but like everything had a purpose. You know, there wasn't anything just extra. Like all the scenes and like you said, how meticulous it was to harvest that gem, whatever it is.
I think it's called Orlac.
Yeah, because that's gonna play into the climax of the film. You know, the
Hmm.
third act. I was like, oh, okay. I'm like, that's cool. That's cool when it comes back around. Uh, so yeah, like I don't know, and then the whole thing with the like the breathers and they need filters and like everything had a purpose. You know, every single line of dialogue was either served the relationship of the characters, served like even like an ounce of world building.
Hmm.
You know, so on that hand, from that perspective, I'm like, man, this is like a really well together uh, I don't know what to say. Script. Like it was just
Oh yeah.
it was put together really well.
Yeah.
Kind of reminded me of not to the same extent, but like uh while you were sleeping. And we talked about how like every single scene of that movie progresses the storyline and the characters' journeys, you know, and like every single line of dialogue
Hmm.
is perfect because it does the same thing. It not only makes the audience laugh, but it's moving the plot forward. And that's
Yeah.
kind of what I felt like with this, not 100%, but it's like it was always forward. It was always moving. And even if like again, like the whole process of cleaning the thing off and stuff, I didn't know it at the time, but that's important for later because we're
Yeah.
going to see how meticulous it is for a guy with one arm to do it. You know, you're like, oh my
Hmm.
God. And then, of course, we see how dangerous it is, you know?
Hmm.
And I'm like, oh man. So, yeah, like this was just a really well done um, film, you know? And like, hats off to the directors who are also the writers as well as all the other crew in the cast
Hmm.
and the composers. I'm
Yeah.
like, man. But now I got a question for you.
Okay.
This was out distributed or whatever from Dust Productions.
Yeah.
I've always heard of them and I'm subscribed to their YouTube. So like every night they pretty much have like a live stream of all their stuff.
Hmm.
I don't know much about them. Like I
I
know
don't.
they're a sci-fi branch of this other company,
Yeah.
but I don't really know much about them.
I don't really either. Let me see if I can do just a quick.
Just gonna Google it real quick.
Yeah, I'm just gonna Google.
Watchdust.com. Thought-provoking sci-fi short films. And I was seeing just kind of like the images from the short films, and like
Mhm.
there's some like well-known actors in these short films.
Yeah, yeah. Ah, they're a subsidiary of Gunpowder and Sky.
Well, regardless, check it out, everyone. Watchdusk.com.
Yeah,
Um,
because they're like there's a lot. They have a YouTube channel, and they post like a lot of short films on there too. I know I've seen and reviewed a couple of them on my Letterboxd.
Here, let me read this real quick. Dust is the sci-fi division of independent studio Gunpowder and Sky. Dust reaches passionate sci-fi fans across all social channels, a flagship podcast, and a linear, free-to-view OTT channel
Hmm.
exploring the future of humanity through the lens of science and technology. What's OTT?
I don't know.
Well, they develop film, TV, podcast, production services, screenings. You know what movie they should have? No, it wouldn't have fit.
What?
Ink.
Ink? No, it probably wouldn't have fit. Yeah.
So Gunpowder and Sky, is that what they're called?
Hmm.
They do a lot of music videos, a lot of concert stuff. A Sabrina Carpenter VR concert.
Hmm.
I'm
That's
gonna have to look into
interesting.
this. Speaking of which, Sabrina Carpenter is now in Fortnite, everyone.
Yeah, yeah, she is.
Hold your
And
horses.
and speaking of which, I want a prospect bundle pack
The
in
pack.
Fortnite. Yeah. Give me Ezra and C.
Oh, it's interesting. I kind of interested in like the mute companion guy because like he just
Yeah.
has like the blacked out helmet, which is kind of scary. And then
Yeah.
that one random guy who's like in the glass tank with like the gold skulls and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
put him in Fortnite.
Put him in Fortnite. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Um,
I love how like there is so much like lore and like low key world building,
yeah.
and like we said, like all the world building is like told in dialogue, or just like brief shots. of things. But yeah, like you can just see how like lived in a lot of these places are.
Yeah.
The weird like cult, I guess, that Ezra and
Yeah.
C like are trying to trade with.
Hmm.
You know, like they feels like they have their own kind of religion, you know, they have their own, you know, ideals and stuff going on.
And I'll say
Uh
on that too, it's kind of weird because at first I was kind of turned off by like the way Ezra would talk. I'm like, I'm trying to think, is this supposed to be like he's well read? Is he like a smart guy for this world? Like, it's kind of weird
mm,
when our only two characters were seeing her dad,
mm,
So he comes here very much sounding like a prospector with his kind
mm,
of southern, kind of western accent. But
mm,
at the same, and but then also the vocabulary he's using, like, okay, very much like a snake oil salesman.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
but I'm like, okay, that's interesting. But the way he was even it's one of those things where like he's making like references or he's saying lines which they have no meaning in our modern day vocabulary, but it
Hmm.
seems to make sense in theirs. I'm like, okay, well then when we meet the cult, it's almost like they have their own kind of poetic language, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I like
Hmm.
that because that kind of shows Ezra's not just this anomaly, you know.
Yeah.
There's people who speak like this out there, and who knows? Maybe they're this is the last scraps of language that is left on this planet. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
uh, what that I was getting a lot of vibes from the 100 while watching this.
Yeah.
And one thing about the 100 that I really loved is that they have I forgot what it's called, like tree the slang, something like that.
Oh
And
yeah,
it's like what the jeez, it's been a while. What are they called? I know
yeah.
there's like tree crew, and but like all of them,
Yeah.
basically the people who still live on Earth, they have their own languages, and they actually got a linguist. And I think it's the guy who worked on Game of Thrones.
Yeah, it
They had him
was.
come up with a language, and it's kind of like a Creole of old real life languages. And it's like, yeah, at the end of the world, this is kind of what's left. So
Hmm.
there's a lot of language and writing that is similar to what we have right now, because like it's whatever's left, what hasn't been lost through time. And I
Hmm.
really like that. And that's what kind of reminded me of the cult and Ezra, like, huh, like who knows, like language, if something happens to your world, this is also something I'm thinking about, like the world blows up or whatever, like what's left?
Hmm.
Just that damn satellite we sent out to space with like our music, and
Yeah.
other history, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like that's all that exists of us. So it's not hard to believe that most language won't survive. It's just going to be pieces, and then people have to basically build on top of that to actually
Hmm.
communicate. So that I loved. I'm like, okay, interesting. What a weird language, like,
Yeah.
or yeah. And then the trend by C, and I'm like, oh, damn it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. The only thing I didn't like were the mercenaries. I was like, oh, okay. I'm like,
Yeah.
because they just weren't smart, I'm like, this whole movie is showing us how dangerous this world is, and then they're just there like, I don't care, blah blah blah. I'm like, how much crap these guys would have to deal with,
Hmm.
in their line of work. Like, I get it that they're not characters who would be sympathetic, you know,
Hmm.
but still, like, you're late, blah blah blah. Like, these things happen in space,
Hmm.
and with space travel.
Hmm.
And then the one girl who's all mad and gonna kill him, like, you do realize if you kill us, if we don't do the job, you're not gonna get paid. So
Yeah.
like, it's one of those things where like, okay, it's a story, we got to keep it going. But
Yeah, yeah. It's like we gotta, have tension and like, oh, up the stakes and be like, these people are violent, It's like,
yeah,
yeah, we kind of get that,
yeah.
it's yeah,
So
yeah.
oh well.
Um, yeah, no movie, I guess no movie's perfect,
It also
but
reminded me of when the SNL skit where what was it, Space Mistakes?
oh yeah, he made a
Man.
mistake in space.
Oh no, anywhere but there. Oops. Oh man.
uh, yeah, but hey, we got not necessarily a cool firefight, but like
Yeah.
just interesting, like interesting action. Like there's really not a lot of action in this,
Yeah.
but I really like how well it's all done.
Hmm.
That first, that first the first time the guns go off, you're like, oh, oh wow, you're
Yeah.
kind of taken aback. You're like, wait,
Yeah.
what happened? And I really like how they draw that out again,
Yeah.
just to make it just to show you that like, yeah, shit's dangerous.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, I don't want to harp too much on the mercenaries, but I think part of it is like we spend the whole movie seeing C and Ezra learn to work together despite their
Mhm,
differences and despite like their animosity towards each other. Why? Because on one hand, they're both professionals and they got a job to do.
mhm,
And in this case, that job is surviving.
mhm.
It's like, yeah, they know what's up. They know the circumstances. So you get these kind of mercenaries who they're just like, I'm like, are are you stupid? Like the one young guy, the one who seemed like maybe he could have been nice, was like, well, actually, all we got to do is dump this and fix this, and we can do it.
Mhm.
Like, okay, get it done. I was like,
Yeah.
yeah. Why? Because that guy's a professional.
Yeah. Yeah.
The other two, I'm like, do you want to get your money or not? Like, come on.
Yeah.
Uh, but
Hey man, like
I didn't make it. I didn't
they are
make it.
mercs on a prisoner on a prisoner transport, and
Yeah,
that's what happens when you're part of the prison industrial complex.
there you
You
go.
get got, all
Were they
right.
prisoners?
The guy in the cage.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he was a prisoner.
Oh, they were like
Yeah.
dropping him off or whatever, right? That's what
Yeah,
this.
yeah,
Yeah,
like he's being like left here as some part of, like I know they mentioned it like as a thing where it's like, oh,
yeah.
like this is like a ritualistic kind of death for this guy.
Wow.
But yeah, all the mercs are, yeah, they're essentially like prison runners, and
Yeah,
they're transporting this guy to do this job where they happened upon the Queen's lair,
yeah,
but they can't mine it. So they're like, well, if we get somebody, then we're
yeah,
all rich. Yeah.
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 Well,
You know. So yeah, these guys ain't smart. They're part of the prison industrial complex, man. Of
yeah. Okay,
course.
I guess that
Yeah.
that kind of helps. Not only that, but they need that power trip.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I get that. Yeah. So all in all, oh, and I love the music. I mean, not just the score. We've talked about that, but like the
Mhm.
actual music they use. I don't know if
Oh
those were
yeah,
real
yeah.
bands or what, but I really dug that, and I'm like, huh, this is cool. Like I don't know, it kind of reminded me of like the youth of today who are just obsessed with like K-pop. You know,
Yeah.
there was kind of like I don't know what language it was or national origin in world. It's probably not anything we know because they're probably not from Earth,
Yeah.
but yeah, like I don't know. I believe like a teenage girl would listen to something like this.
Mhm.
I'm like, okay, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And then even
There
like the mean lady at the towards the end of the movie, whatever funky music she had playing, I was like, damn,
yeah.
okay.
I did let one we kind of like brushed over it, but like I do love how they have to communicate with like short range radio.
Yeah,
Like they have to be on a certain channel to talk to each other.
yeah.
Um,
I also like how they have to share each other's air hose.
yeah,
I'm like, that's
yeah,
cool.
yeah. That was really cool. That was a nice touch. But yeah, I really did like how yeah, the one of the mercs it just has that, just playing on like a channel, the like weird music that
Yeah,
overpowers Ezra and C's, but
yeah.
you can still see that she and the other mercs are talking to each other,
Mhm.
and I'm like, oh, that's so rad to just have like that's such a nice little thing. And even later when they're running into the forest and they know that she's coming after, they're trying to like make a plan and then immediately gets cut off by the music. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, that's so creepy. Like
And I,
that's
I
such a
like it too
creepy thing.
because they kind of turn it off, right? And then they talk to each other like through the helmet. I think they only do that like once or twice in the movie.
I think that's the only time they do it.
And
Yeah.
it's really cool. I was like, yeah, I like that. I love in the Expanse when they do that. They're in space though,
Yeah.
so when they turn off their comms, but they
They press
they
like face plates to each
yeah
other.
they press the helmets together so they can hear each other like through the vibrations and through the faceplates. I'm
Yeah.
like, that's the cool little details that just make this world feel it feels lived in and real, you
Yeah.
know? And I absolutely love that. I would have done something more with the air hoses to have
Mm.
it kind of pay off. Like there's the scene where she trips or whatever, it gets like snug on a tree stump, so she
Oh
has to
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
reattach it. And Ezra's like, at some point, you're gonna have to trust me. I was really hoping at some point in the end, like they would have to literally share the hose back and forth. Like
Mm.
again, I
Yeah.
mean, I know that's from the Expanse, but like only one of them would have a working air tank, so they had to keep sharing the hose back and forth.
Yeah.
You know, I
Yeah.
was hoping for something like that.
That would have been cool. Like, because Ezra gets hurt and he tells her, to leave me behind. That would have been a really cool thing if they're like, she comes back and they're like walking and
Yeah.
they have to like constantly switch as they're walking. So they're like,
Yeah.
okay, like not even saying anything. They just like each hold their breath, wait for the other person, and they go,
Yeah. Oh God.
yeah, that would have
Yeah.
been cool.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh man.
yeah, I love the see. I love I love sci-fi. Sci-fi is my favorite genre.
Yeah. Me
I
too.
think I think I went a really long time, trying to like deny that about myself, trying to like be more like, oh, like it's a thing that I do like, but
Yeah. Yeah.
obviously I like these. It's like, nah, man, sci-fi is the best genre. You can tell any story, in there. I
Yeah.
think any story that you tell is immediately improved if you put it on a forest moon or have
Hmm.
people with space helmets, or just
Yeah.
something, you know. Uh and I do kind of mean that sort of facetiously because I want to see more stuff like this,
Yeah.
around. But also, yeah, I'm just like, no, this is cool. This is a great movie. I think there's I think you can kind of cut through a lot of things when you make genre pictures.
Yeah.
It's like yes, I know I said it before. I think talking somewhere about Lost, but it's like Grant Morrison when they were talking about writing Superman.
Hmm.
It's like they're all they're all just stories that are supposed to be relatable.
Hmm.
It's just that because it's Superman, it's on a titanic scale.
Yeah.
When you have Superman meeting his in-laws, of course, there's got to be like this giant, world-shattering events or, like these other, the crazy, uh, just majestic things happening. But
Hmm.
it's still a story about meeting your in-laws and the
Yeah.
anxiety that comes when you do that. Superman's gonna go walk his dog. Fantastic. We know what it's like to go walk our dogs, but Crypto's got to go around the solar system to go do that, to get
Yeah.
a good run in.
Yeah.
So it's like you just have to heighten the scale. I think that's the same way when you do it with genre pictures.
Hmm.
This is a coming of age story. Yes, we've seen it, in modern day or, an actual Western. I feel like a
Hmm.
lot of this kind of harkens back a little bit to True Grit as well. You know, not wholly and completely. It's not a one to one, but like, you can see like there are these two very, like determined young women becoming young women,
Right.
leaving their adolescence to become adults.
Hmm.
And they both go through these terrible things, have these horrible things happen to them. They both see their fathers killed.
Hmm.
And this is their journey afterwards. I love that. It's like it's just, yeah, we're getting that story, but it's in space. Like that's cool. Do more of that.
Okay, so what is one story you wish you could see as a sci-fi, like redone as a sci-fi?
Oh,
And
damn it.
or what's
Uh-huh.
one story
Uh-huh.
you would love to see as a Western?
Mm. Okay, okay.
Because I
Let's
know my
see.
Western, I don't know my sci-fi.
Okay.
The Godfather as
The
sci-fi.
guy. No.
Well, hmm.
I mean, is it wrong if I say I want to see Streets of Fire as a sci-fi?
That's
I
cool.
want to see it. I want to see the aliens. I want to see
I
them,
I
rocking
like
out
that.
with crazy, alien guitars. I want to
Yeah.
see like the dystopian asteroid landscape, that
Hmm.
these people they're part of that mining colony or something. Like, yeah, I
Hmm.
want to see that.
I
Um,
would really like to see like an Indiana Jones type story in space.
dude, we need more space adventure.
Yeah.
Not just um obviously not like just like a Guardians of the Galaxy kind of thing, but yeah, like I want to see like an indie or even like a National Treasure or something.
Yeah,
Like, do
Indy
that
is
in
still
space.
Indy was like a throwback to like kind of the swashbucklers and
Those,
the
yeah,
old
those like pulp cereals from the
yeah,
30s.
and like
Yeah.
I want to see more of that, you know? I I love the concept of Star-Lord. I love
Mm.
that. That's
Hmm.
so like kind of pulpy
It's very
Jack
Flash
Kirby.
Gordon,
Yeah, Flash Gordon, very Jack Kirby kind of like imagery there. I love the rocket pack. I love the guns, The
The
fact that
the
he's from
helmet
Earth, he
too.
doesn't have
Yeah.
to be, but the fact from he's from Earth, yeah, and the full helmet, yeah, the
Hmm.
covered face. I love that stuff. I'm not a big fan of the way they kind of just make Star-Lord an idiot, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't know how much more, how like how much how true to the comics that is or not, but I love that. Like, give me the Rocketeer in space,
Yeah.
you know? The concept of like John Carter on Mars, I like that. I don't know much about that series, but like what I've
Me
seen, like I'm
either.
not really interested too much, but I kind of like that concept.
Hmm.
But yeah, I want to see more stuff like
There's a
that.
there's a pulpiness that I think we've lost along the
Yeah,
way, you
yeah,
know, and I wonder if it's, obviously, like changing tastes and, like
yeah.
changing, decades and all that. But I wonder if it's something like people don't want to go to George Lucas prequels with their
Mm,
sci-fi,
mhm.
because I feel like the prequels are very much in the vein of more operatic like Flash Gordon stuff.
Yeah, and they were
Like
more
that.
serious.
Yeah, yeah, they were more serious, and they were a little more heady because they're like fully dealing with politics,
Yeah.
and all that. And I feel like maybe filmmakers don't want to go that way. Well, and we also, whenever we do, occasionally get the rare space opera that isn't part of an IP, like Jupiter Ascending, uh it doesn't really go over well, and it
Yeah.
and it is, kind of thing, like, and
Or
I
Chronicles of Riddick,
or
which we could have
Chronicles of
talked about
Riddick.
this week.
We could have talked about that, very well could have, which is interesting because I feel like now that we have this discussion open, it is kind of interesting, like Chronicles of Riddick, Jupiter Ascending, they are both kind of playing into the more pulp space opera that we don't really get anymore, you
I was
know?
gonna say, what was the Valerian movie?
Oh yeah, Valerian, the city of a thousand planets.
Something like that.
Yeah, I think that's what that is.
I
Yeah, that
I
too.
dug that movie. Like
That too.
Dane DeHaan, right? Is that his name?
Yes.
Dug him. I liked it. Cara Delevingne, like
Hmm. Hmm.
awesome. I'm like, dude, this is
Hmm.
rad.
Also Luc Besson,
Yeah, Luc Besson.
because we were talking about Fifth Element. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, talk about like a completely different take on sci-fi, you know?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it's a different.
Not
I
completely, but like you
the
could make the
tone
argument
the
that the
tone
Fifth
is
Element
is
is a comedy or it's very comedic,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
whereas Valerian wasn't. Maybe that's why it failed. Who knows?
Yeah.
But I think
Valerian
that
had more of like a pulp buddy sort of, partner kind of thing
also
too.
it was
Yeah.
based off a comic, so that
Yeah,
could be it.
yeah, a bunch of French comics,
But
yeah.
I think maybe, that's always kind of been the way. I think also a lot of people they'll kind of hide behind the humor. You know,
Yeah,
it's like, oh,
yeah.
we're making silly sci-fi guys, but like we're in on it. And then
Yeah.
James Gunn being so successful with Guardians, it's kind of almost giving them an excuse. So like they hide, behind the comedy.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I don't know. I really don't know what it is.
You want to know something? Last year, the day you and I went to go see Deadpool and Wolverine in theaters,
Uh-huh.
before that,
Okay.
I was watching on Tubi Jet Li's The One.
Oh yes, we've talked about it.
And we've talked about this.
Yeah.
But one thing I was so taken by when rewatching that movie was how earnest the entire movie was.
Yeah.
This is a movie where Jet Li is a a universe hopping assassin who's killing himself in different universes.
Hmm.
And it's just an excuse to have Jet Li fight himself.
Right.
But none of that is played for laughs. None
Hmm.
of it is like winking at the camera even. It's like, oh, look how ridiculous it is. It's like, no, this concept is ridiculous. But we still have some of the sickest new metal drops from the 2000s
Yeah.
playing while Jet Li is either escaping from prison or kicking people's ass at like 60 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And you're like, this is that like, I'm sorry, is this a good movie? I don't know if it's a good movie, but I'm having the time of my life. It's fantastic. And then we
Hmm.
went to go watch Deadpool and Wolverine, and it's almost every single minute being like, hey, isn't this funny? We can make jokes like this now. Hey,
Right.
this is a genre picture, but we know it's a genre picture, so we're poking fun at it. And it's like,
Yeah.
why can't we just let genre be the genre anymore?
And here's the thing, not to call anyone out, but I'm calling people out here.
Sure.
That's been every single Ryan Reynolds movie
Yes.
for a long time, even
Yes.
before Deadpool. Because with
Yeah.
Deadpool, you can make the excuse that like, oh, it's breaking the fourth wall. That's part of the character. Sure, but that
Sure.
doesn't excuse all the other Ryan Reynolds movies.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I what I remembered I was gonna say we should have in sci-fi
What?
Fast and the Furious. It's
Matthew?
it starts off just as like a cop versus robber story, very Point
Mm-hmm.
Break inspired,
Mm-hmm.
and then they end up saving the world
Mm-hmm.
several times over. Like, dude, that's perfect. That's adventures on Tatooine all the way to saving the galaxy. Like,
Matt, I tell you, if I had a Star Wars project years ago, if you had asked me this, obviously I'd be like Seven Samurai,
mhm.
but they're all Jedi.
Yeah,
Like that's the one I feel like everybody wants to see. Like they want to
yeah.
do that so bad. No, Matt, now 2025, you know what I want? I want the Pod Racer series. Give me exactly what you just pitched. Point
Yeah,
Break, Fast and Furious with the pod racing.
yeah,
It's the seedy underbelly going to all the different worlds because it's not just on Tatooine, it's
yeah,
on these other planets too. It's like, give me that. That would
yeah,
be so rad. Of course, obviously, I feel like that should be an original. That should just be, let's not have it be stuck to IP, but if
yeah.
that's the only way I can do it, I'll do it. I'll do
Like
it.
and like I think just doing it, it kind of helps and enriches the IP, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Like I can't help think about the absolute crap fest that was Rebel Moon, and a part of me wonders
Oh,
like
Matt, this is going on YouTube. This is going on
I'm
YouTube.
sorry, but look, I like Zack Snyder a lot more than you do, and a lot
Yeah,
more than some of our friends do.
yeah.
I'll go to bat for that man. Just not his superhero stuff. Man of Steel
Hmm.
was okay,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
like I enjoy his movies a lot, so I was pumped for Rebel Moon, and I was just so disappointed. And I know he felt good like breaking away from Star Wars because that was the concept. That was going to be his Star Wars movie. And
yeah,
he's like,
yeah,
no, it's better just to do my own thing. But I'm like, I kind of wonder what the Star Wars version would look like.
yeah,
Again, what could he have done with those constraints? Because we both agree artists work best under pressure.
yeah,
So when
yeah,
you give someone carte blanche, it always goes to poop.
yeah.
So yeah, part of me wonders like what would his Seven Samurai Star Wars movie have looked like? Who knows? We'll never know
Oh, yeah.
because it
Yeah.
wasn't what we got. Um, but yeah, man, like, and then with the Fast and Furious thing, I just said that because like I like how they go from just street level criminals to essentially like world saving super spies,
Yeah. Yeah.
in the span of like 10 movies. And I'm like, yeah, what would that look like in a sci-fi setting?
I
Um,
like it's a little harder because, you're already dealing with, the fantastical by setting that story in space.
yeah,
So the stakes would have to be a little bit different, but I agree. Like I do think it
not
would
really,
be
Sam, because at the end of the day, it's always about family,
no man, it's always about
space family.
space
That's
family.
right. That's
We're
right.
family in
Um,
space.
we're gonna have to do a whole other episode like on what sci-fis we would want to see, what westerns we would want to see.
Yeah.
But because I also just thought what we were talking about, you know, kind of kind of coming of age, but like just like young women finding their way um into themselves and through the situation. And the first thing I thought of was like space Silence of the Lambs.
Holy shit.
Dude, like, oh my God. So
Oh my God.
that I don't know how that would work logistically. It's kind of a joke, but I'm kind of curious how that would work. But
Good morning, Agent Starling.
speaking of Anthony Hopkins, the Western I
Oh
absolute
yeah.
want to make before Sir Anthony Hopkins passed away, I want to do a Western Titus Andronicus.
Dude, I've been waiting. Yes.
Dude, like
Yes.
ever since I read it, I was reading it, I'm like, dude, this
It's Hatfields and McCoys, It's a bloody
exactly, it is.
Western,
Yeah. Oh my God, dude.
Yeah,
Um,
man. I love that. I would love to see a Western Titus Andronicus.
yeah. And it wouldn't be beat for beat,
Yeah.
uh like I've contemplated like, well, would they end up eating their own children? I don't know, because that's a pretty big twist.
Hey,
So I
man.
don't know
Yeah.
like how much like I would just adapt it to a Western or just like make something like loosely inspired by it or what. But that's a
hmm
story like I've always wanted to tell as a Western. I've been thinking about it for like what, 15 years at this point.
Yeah. Minimum. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah. But
Damn.
yeah,
That'd be so
man.
cool.
This is a fun episode.
Yeah.
It was a fun movie. Fun. Well, it
I,
wasn't a fun movie, but it was a good movie. Fun episode.
yeah.
So, and I'm like, I'm gonna be honest.
Okay.
This kind of feels like episode one of like a new direction of the podcast
Ooh.
because not next week. Next week we're gonna
Yes.
have Dad back on the pod, and we're just gonna, I don't know, we'll figure something out to talk about.
hmm
But 2 weeks from now, we're gonna start Star Wars Andor,
hmm
episode
hmm
one, season one.
hmm
And then we're just gonna fly on through.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I'm not exactly sure how long that's gonna take, but I'm already thinking about, like what we're gonna do after that, because it's only what, like it's 24 episodes total.
It's Yeah, yeah. It'll end up being with both seasons, it'll be
Yeah,
24 episodes.
yeah. So it's
Yeah.
not
And
that
there's only
long,
there's only gonna be two seasons, unfortunately. So
Yeah, it's shorter than Dark. So
yeah.
so I'm kind of thinking about what's next, like what are we gonna watch next, what's coming up next for the channel, stuff like that. And
hmm
uh I don't know. Might have a lot more sci-fi in our future. We'll see.
I am down. I
We'll
am
see.
totally down.
So
Uh my ending note, just to wrap up
uh
Prospect. Um if you still have not watched Prospect, we encourage you, please go watch it. It's fantastic. You can go watch the short film that's on both Vimeo and YouTube. Prospect, unfortunately, at this time, I misspoke last time. I thought it was on Paramount, but unfortunately, it wasn't.
it was nowhere near Paramount,
It was
Sam.
no,
I
it
had to
was.
rent the movie.
I saw it. I saw it on Paramount like while I was scrolling through. I was like, "Oh, cool." But yeah, it lived on YouTube for like years, and
Yeah.
then suddenly was just not on, or I'm sorry, it lived on Hulu for years,
Mm.
and then it just suddenly was not there anymore. But tried and true, Tubi. You can find it on Tubi if you
I started watching it on
don't want to
Tubi, and then the
pay.
first commercial, I was like, nope, I'm just gonna go rent
Yeah,
this movie.
yeah. I
So
I probably should have done it. Honestly, I need to get it. I need to buy it.
yeah,
But yeah, and yeah, but after that, um, if you want any more recommended watching, I would recommend going watch The Expanse, but also Scavenger's Reign, because a lot of how this it's like Scavenger's Reign is obviously different. It's an animated series. It's on Netflix right now. I believe it is still on Max. But yeah, it is kind of the same thing. It's about a group of former astronauts just trying to survive
yeah,
on a completely alien world. That is a lot bloodier, a lot bleaker, but I think there are a lot of themes that travel over, especially hope and especially finding beauty in these foreign spaces, these foreign,
hmm
planets. Um, yeah, I think it's great. I think if anything, that is sort of like a a space age Western Odyssey. Like
hmm
Scavenger's Reign, I feel like has that in it. And unfortunately, just like a lot of other things, it is effectively canceled right now. I think
yeah.
they're trying to shop it around at other studios and networks. So if you want to see any more of Scavenger's Reign, go watch it on Max, go watch it on Netflix. Just keep bumping the numbers.
And when everyone talks about sci-fi westerns,
Mhm.
they always talk about Firefly.
Oh, that I did want to talk about that. Yeah.
I absolutely love Firefly. It's one of the greats. Unfortunately, canceled after one season,
Hmm.
but I that's definitely more of like a fun, positive, happy kind of Western sci-fi. Even though
For
they do go
sure.
dark and they do tackle some stuff, but it's like there's a lot of humor in it, to kind of help tell the story and stuff. When we
Hmm.
talk like something like Prospect and then like Scavenger's Reign, I feel more even The Expanse, there's a lot about exploration and
Hmm.
dipping in your toes into the unknown. And I really get more of the oh man, what's like Oregon Trail type stories or
Yeah, yeah,
we
yeah.
we we keep talking about it. I don't remember what the Yellowstone prequel was with Sam Elliott. Um,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
because they're just numbered. They're years at this point. I don't know what
Yeah.
year that prequel was. But that one was like the wagon trail story, of
Hmm.
them how they got there. And something like that. Oh, I absolutely love that, and to
Hmm.
to do that in space, love it. Yeah, yeah.
Honestly, if they were to ever like revamp or reboot Firefly, I would love for them to go more of Prospects route. You know, a little bit more grounded. It's
Yeah.
like obviously, have like, spaceships, kind of stuff, but like do it kind of like this. Like, hey, there not every planet is terraformed.
Yeah.
Not every space station is gonna have good air filters. It's like have it be like this, like truly make it feel, desperate,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and kind of more just inclusive because, like we have so many people that are prominently showcased, with like different religions or speaking in different languages. It's like don't
Mhm.
just have your white actors, badly fumble through some Mandarin.
Yeah.
It's like no, like let's actually expound on that and like try to build a more cohesive world.
Yeah.
You know?
Again, this one of the I love the language of The Expanse,
Yeah,
It's so
yeah.
good.
Lang Belta.
I would love to see Saga like adapted, you know.
Mm.
I don't know how realistic that is because I know the creators are kind of against it, but Saga or Saga-esque, something in that vein, where that might dip more into like the sci-fi fantasy route, but
Oh,
it
for sure.
has
Yeah.
the very pulp kind of feel to it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, and you can cast me as a goose. No, I think that rolls for Sam. Um,
Oh man, I don't know. I will do yoga and I will get it just in shape enough so that I can like crouch down like
in the
Sean
suit.
Gunn on the set of Guardians,
Dude, did you see
and then do the voice in VO.
that movie coming out with the animatronic thing?
The anime, I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh my God. Okay, guys, this is a long episode. This is gonna be the last one, I think. I swear. Uh
This was crazy because I feel like we haven't really talked like in a week because we've been saving it for the podcast.
I know.
Everything is content.
I don't know what movie it is. Movie with
With animatronic?
girl and little alien.
Oh, wait, is this an A24 movie?
Yes.
Yeah, The Legend of Ochi, I think.
The Legend of Ochi, I think. Have you seen the behind the scenes?
Yeah, yeah,
It's all
man.
practical.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure there's like CGI to help it, but like if you watch the trailer, like I feel like, oh man, that's some damn good CGI. But then I saw the
Hmm.
behind the scenes. I'm like, they did it all practical. And my
Yeah.
mind is just like, oh, dude, just blown. Like,
Yeah, like
God, I love
the way
sci-fi.
they like filmed like the countryside, it's like whatever
Yeah.
filter they're using on that. And then yeah, like the little animatronic creature,
Yeah.
kind of just looks like a weird like orangutan but with like fangs.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's all practical. I'm like it's so cool and it looks so good and I'm very excited for it.
Come on, world. Let's get things together. Let's start making movies again.
See,
Jeez.
I love Werner Herzog is the reason why we have a practical baby Yoda
Yeah.
because they were just gonna do it as a green screen and he was just like, I've want to see the baby. Like you
No.
have to use it as, real. It's got to be, a physical thing. And yeah, like it's fantastic because yeah, now they have this little animatronic baby Yoda that you can physically pick up and has
Hmm.
weight and you can move around and all that. It's like that's fantastic. That's what we need more of. You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I will talk more about practical effects and stuff once we get into Andor because yeah, I have a lot more thoughts on it.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, listeners, until then, join us next week when we have Dad on the show,
Yeah.
and then join us in 2 weeks when we start Andor. But I hope you all enjoyed this movie. I hope you all enjoyed this discussion. Stick around. Hit us up at hashtag Lost Legacies. You can
Hmm.
find us
Hmm.
on, I mean, just, hashtag wherever you can on socials. I'm on Instagram and Threads at Holy Hand Grenade of Antioch and on BluSky at Matthew Jimenez.
And you can find me on Instagram, Blue Sky, and Threads at Real. It's REEL Texas Weirdo.
So to sign off,
Oh,
damn, we can't come up with a new one for everything. This is tough.
uh, yeah, I was trying to think of one that was prospect centric, but
Yeah. Is there a line anywhere?
no.
There isn't. Oh, what we didn't talk about, which is something I did, is C is kind of how she rewrites books
Oh,
because she
damn
lost her
it.
copy.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's so cool. One, that's a very kind of like youthful kid thing to do.
Yeah.
Kind of just makes everything feel more real, like we've talked about. But I just
Yeah.
thought that was so cute, and like she's. Explaining it to Ezra,
Hmm.
It's like, you wrote a book. He's like, well, no, it's what is it called? Like Satellite Girl, I think, or
Yeah.
something like
Yeah.
that. And she's like, well, no, she's like, I lost my copy of the book wherever. And so, but I know all the scenes and I write them out the best I can. But I love what she says after that. She's like, but a lot of times I imagine what happens not in the book, like between the chapters. And I imagine myself with these characters and it
Hmm.
kind of makes the world just seem better. And I'm like, oh man, my heart is just melting. Cause
Hmm.
I'm like, dude, that's like what you and I have been doing our whole lives, you know,
Yeah.
fan fiction, but like, I feel like it's fan fiction when you write it out. In your head, it's just like,
Yeah.
that's your world, that's your canon.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a big part of like where D&D comes from out of us, that imagination
Hmm.
and like creating our own stories and characters. And like, I just absolutely, when she said that, I'm like, oh, damn
That's
it.
right. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And that was one of the differences I wanted to mention because, in the short, she's a sketch artist and,
Yeah.
maybe gonna become a painter. And I love the switch in the film because yeah, it makes it kind of more relatable, just like, yeah,
Yeah.
everybody has a story that they're obsessed with,
Yeah.
you know? And yeah, the fact that like
Even
she's read it
Murderbot.
over and over. Yeah, even Murderbot has stories they're
It's probably
obsessed
the
with,
same story.
right?
He
Right?
probably is obsessed with Satellite Girl.
Satellite, it's one of the shows he alternates, or
Yeah.
they alternate. It's like, yeah, I've seen enough of Sanctuary Moon. I need a break. We're gonna go watch Satellite Girl. Um, and next week we will cast Satellite Girl. It'll just be like Sabrina Carpenter.
Right.
But
Whoever's the big thing at the time.
yeah, in like a little, Jetsons-esque, dress and
I
helmet,
saw a
it's
sketch
like
today where
great.
it's, I don't know if you've seen it, but it's like the future coffee shop. And
No.
like it's the two hipsters, but they're all dressed like kind of future wear. And like
Hmm.
this guy comes in with like I don't know, I forgot what she's called, but she's kind of like a cyborg. And
Okay.
they mentioned that like apparently after some kind of big cyber revolt, Zendaya signed with this company to, so she would be the face model for like all the bots, all the service bots. She's
Oh
like, yeah, that
God.
was a really bad deal. She didn't get what she deserved with that.
Oh
Yeah, I'm like,
no.
oh no. So I imagine like all these robot Zendayas out there. She's like, oh yeah, one helped me carry my bags in from the airport. I'm
Uh-huh.
like, oh no. That's
That's
horrible.
insane. Wow. Yeah, Zendaya was my Uber driver the other day.
Yeah.
Oh
Oh
wow.
man. I gotta find that clip. Yeah. Yeah. So that was a great little moment for C. And I'm like, wow. And I like how she kind of like customizes her headphones in
Yeah.
that first scene. And I'm like, oh, it's cool. That's part of like probably the one part of her that looks I don't know, trendy, fashionist.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fashionist? Is that a word? Not
Like
fascist, fashionist.
like fashionista.
Fashionee. There you go.
Yeah, fashiony. Yeah.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
she's just in the drab kind of space gear, but she has these really bright, kind of colorful,
Kind of like
blue,
gold kind
blue
of
and gold
headphones.
headphones.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's things like that where like I really dig, and how you're kind of making your stuff your own, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
I agree.
awesome, absolutely awesome. So I guess until next time, keep dreaming.
See you in the stars.
See you in the stars. Get lost in the
In
stars. In
space.
space.
Lost in space. Lost in space.